Come on, any day now.
We really need entry music, TJ.
Yeah. Well, the other part of it, about 10% of the time, it's not muted when it comes on. That's the only reason I sit there. And those of you that are watching live are going, what? Welcome to Triple T, number 146, October 15th, 2024. Yeah, how did it already get to be October 15th? Like, wasn't last week 2012 or something like that? I may have missed a day or two. Anyhow, my name is TJ Zebel. I call myself a professional problem solver, which I always follow up. No, I don't know everything. I just have a unique way of asking questions to help people with all sorts of things like straighten out my camera and, funny stuff like that. Where was I? Yes, it's been one of those days. We are also live on YouTube, so I get to say, hi, Mom. And for all of those lovely people, all of you on YouTube, please do all the YouTube stuff. Click the subscribe and ring the bell so that you can find out when we're going live. And as always, please leave comments and comment on other people's comments and then comment on your comment again, because I like the comments. They're fun to read. Got a new little announcement. Got a brand new website on the way. It's going to be a while, but I want to throw a big shout out to Dr. Richard Nongard, who is a website guru. And so he's going to whip me up a fantabulous website. And I offer lots of stuff on that. That's what we're working on. It's been a long day, folks. I've been working with clients since 10 o'clock this morning, so I've been talking like a banshee, and my brain is like a fried egg. But we're going to throw a little salt and pepper on it and make it tasty and have a good time. So, what else do? I offer... I get the privilege of helping people with depression, anxiety, phobias, PTSD, limiting beliefs. I do a lot of relationship work lately. Wow. And getting some really cool results. So that makes me happy. And I do offer a free 30-minute consultation. That's your chance to get a hold of me, sit down, we'll chit-chat about what kind of challenges you're up against, what kind of results you're looking for. And if I'm a fit, I will let you know. And if I'm not, I promise I will let you know, and I will do my best to find the perfect fit to get you the answers and the results you're looking for. What now? Oh, introduce the tie. Yes, that's right. For those of you that are new to Triple T, this year, every week I've been wearing a different tie. I have that many ties. This week, again, I've got a little poo on my tie. And, because
Very sweet.
I'm so serial that I've got to have poo on my tie. I always tell people, if you got to be cereal, at least be a Fruit Loop or Count Chocula. At least you get some chalky milk when you're done. What else? Let's see. Really quick, for those of you that are brand new to Triple T, the way that I came up with doing this is the first hour, I have 3 topics that I do my best to get through. For those of you that have been around Triple T for a while, you know exactly what I mean. And then the second hour is open mic, open platform. Anybody on the call can bring up questions or topics, and I let anybody on the call answer first because I like to learn as well. And if there's anything I can add after that, after the fact, that's when I throw in my 2 centavos and put in my ideas. But before we get rolling on the other stuff, I'm curious, does anybody have anything they'd like to share from the last 7 days since we were here? Any cool stuff? Lenora.
I am super excited to share that my 5-day challenge was awesome last week. I was so excited. Some of the amazing people in this group also came. So thank you for being a part of it. And I hope you enjoyed it. And then I got some other great ideas from that. So I am super, super excited. All good stuff.
Awesome. Super proud of you.
Thanks.
Anybody want to try and top that one? You blew them out of the water. Well, if not, I guess we can jump right into the topics of the week. All right, what do we got? We've got investing, projectors, and feedback pains. Investing. Oh, well, nowadays, if you haven't heard the word investing, I don't know what rock you've been living under, but man, you've been there a long time. The reason I brought this one up is because, as I mentioned just a little bit ago, I'm having my website redone, which is a form of investing, and I had to invest a lot of time and thought, and now I've got to invest even more time and thought into the information that I want to put on the website. But I also had to invest a substantial amount of money to have it professionally done. I've had websites in the past, and because I've had a photography studio and all the above, and the software was easy enough for me to use, I designed my own websites, and by today's standards, yeah, they looked like I designed my own websites and should not be considered a website creator. They got me through, but my ROI on that investment is probably a reflection of what I put into it. There's a lot of people that look at our industry, at our being agents of change here, as most of us are, and they view us as, I don't know, I've heard lots of stuff. Oh, have I heard lots of stuff. Nothing against the people of Texas, but I've heard lots of stuff like I've been told that I'm doing witchcraft and Satan work and all sorts of like, and for them to invest in the type of work that we do, yeah, going to have to change the approach monstrously. And ironically, the vast majority of my clientele is out of the state of Texas. In fact, I've only got 2 here. Michael.
Okay. I've got a good buddy of mine who actually we met through I took him to Dr. David's class when we first met you, and he's been working with a lot of folks that you're talking about. And when he talks to them, he asks them the question, what do you do when you're in church?
Yeah.
And all we're doing is helping you have a different communication with the powers that be. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Yep.
and you get agreement on it, and then they're like, oh, I didn't look at it like that. And, you're just opening up some channels so you can get your prayers answered.
Oh, absolutely. No, I had one person that wonderfully was willing to be brutally honest with me. And they said, yeah, you're doing that new age stuff. I said, well, when you say it that way, what does that mean to you, that new age stuff? Well, and we got to talking a little bit, and I said, what's one of the most hypnotic, or what are some of the most hypnotic things that are socially acceptable right now? And they said, well, I suppose you're probably saying, being these phones. And I went, oh yeah, no, they're unquestionably. I said, but movies. You ever been to a movie? Lost track of time? Total trance. And music. Do you have any songs that give you an emotional hit, bring you back to a certain memory, make you feel good or make you feel bad, make you feel happy, make you feel sad? That's all trance work. I said, then there's stuff like having people sit close to each other, having people read things together, having people sing together. And they went, oh, well, I see where you're going with this. I said, yep. It's not the gun, it's who's holding it and their intention. I said, the only difference between a Christian priest and a satanic priest is the message and the intention. Other than that, it's words. And they looked at me like, well, what? I went, I hate to break it to you, but yeah. I said another hypnotic deal is a lot of speeches. And I'm not going to, I got a little political with it, and I'm not going to do that on this platform. But I said, there have been some people who have done speeches in the last 10 years who, when they got done, you were like, oh, that was the most amazing speech I've ever heard. And you go, well, what'd they talk about? Oreo. Well, you said it was amazing. What were the topics? Hypnotic. But beyond that, got a little off topic because, hey, my squirrels have squirrels who know squirrels. Back to the investing part, there are people, and I've learned this from when I did massage therapy and a few other things. It's interesting that people will take better care of their cars than they will of their bodies. They will invest quicker, happier into their domicile or their vehicle than they will in their car or in their body, including their mind. Ever know anybody that waits until the toothache is so bad they can't hardly stand it before they go in and have it taken care of? Or put off that nagging pain until it's too late? And then once you learn the stuff that we get to help people with, like today, one of the clients I worked with, they've been dealing with this stuff since they were 3. They're 69 now. And in a 3-hour session, cleaned it up. Granted, when we got done, they were drenched in sweat. Couldn't believe how vivid all the details of everything that happened that put that program on their hard drive were. What was that worth to them? And that's where, what's the investment worth? What could you change in your life to make it better? Starting with you. And what would that take to do that? And it could also be other things like investing in going to the gym. If you are not willing to do the workout at home, maybe you need that investment to motivate you to get to the gym to take better care of yourself. Maybe it's taking classes, investing in classes to learn a different language or learn another skill to make yourself more marketable. You know, I hear a lot of people that are like, well, how are we supposed to live on minimum wage? Well, you're not. That's the bottom rung of the ladder. What are you doing while you're suffering making minimum wage to make yourself more marketable? There is so much information and knowledge on the internet for free. For free. But yes, you do have to make the investment of time to get it. Mark.
Last client of the day today, he started just starting with me, but he starting to invest 20 minutes talking to his missus when he gets home, and use the investing parlance, starting to pay dividends in his relation. That's a good investment.
Mm-hmm.
At 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's amazing what, once you do an assessment of where you're at and where you could be with some small changes. And they don't all have to include investments of cash. That's the part that a lot of people miss. But you can't go and do the exact same thing, the exact same thing every day, 365 days, and complain that you're not somewhere else. That's why I invested the money into improving my website, so that I can get a farther outreach to help more people that are looking to be helped. I don't even have an SEO on my current website, but I realized that since we moved to Texas, I think I've handed out 1,500 or 2,000 business cards. And the ones that have reached out because of that have been outside the state. And that's where the fewest amount of cards have been distributed. So that gave me a little clue as to what I'm up against. Any other inputs, ahas, epiphanies on this? Comments? Nora.
I love this topic, especially about investing, because there's so many different types of ideas that come up when we think about investing. And I know there's been, a talk among like people on YouTube that you invest twice. You invest first with your money and then you invest first with your time. And I really think that you invest, I would say 3 or 4 times.
Yes.
So yes, you invest with your money. Yes, with your time. Time as in learning the education, but then there's also the embodiment of it. And that is something that I don't think, I used to think like, oh, you could just learn it really, really, really fast. That's definitely not the case. It's not like memorizing for a history exam or something. And realizing and acknowledging that you're investing your time into something that you want, that you're caring about. But there was such a disconnect for me in realizing that for a period of time, and then realizing, oh, I have invested all that time, because it was almost like because I enjoyed it, because I found it fun, because I was curious and I wanted to help myself, that I never considered it helping as in investing in me and taking that more seriously, more respectfully, more honoring that. And that, I think, is something extraordinarily powerful when you can realize how many hours, how many videos you've watched, how many pieces of information you've understood and shared and digested and passed along. You really get to notice how far you've come. And I think it's something that really should be quite celebrated. And I love that we have these conversations, because none of us could have these conversations had we not done any of the work that we did before this. And it's just something that's really, really powerful when you recognize, wow, I've been in this community. I've cared about my own mental well-being, my own emotional well-being, my own physical well-being since the age of 18. Yes, perhaps before, but I'm going to go with the age of 18. And then you're like, wow, holy bananas. I think it's really interesting.
I'm so glad that you brought that up, because 2 things. One, yes, you're going to invest into that multiple times. Investing into whether it's a class or whatever, investing the time, but also investing in the repetition. I've seen so many people, God bless them, they've come to a number of classes, and when I see them on the street, they're not doing what they learned in the class. It all stayed in, it was like, when I go back to the class, that's where I do this stuff. But I'm learning it, but it stays in the class. And when I dug down, it was from limiting beliefs in their values and criteria that they didn't even realize were holding them back. The other thing that came up while you were sharing that, you're always investing into something. Whether you're investing into the comfort zone and more padding away from your dreams, you're investing into the weights that are holding you down or the wings that are lifting you up. With all the time that you are putting on this earth, you're constantly investing. Yeah, and great comment, Elijah. He said, that's why I practice with literally everyone. I can't not anymore. It's harder to not do it. Amen. Completely here. And it can be a uplifting blessing when you just, anytime, anywhere, for any reason, and you're able to help somebody like that. And it can also be very frustrating when you know that you have that ability. And as soon as people get an idea of what they think that it is you might be doing, even though it's a convoluted idea, and they shut it down, that can be a little frustrating. I know. And so we just have to do the best we can with what we're given and in our investments. So with Holly.
Sorry, you can finish out. Didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Well, a couple things come into my mind as we're talking. Just some rules of investment that a lot of people forget sometimes. First of all, there's the risk return rule that anything that has high return, and this is true whether it's, emotional, whether it's financial, whether it's, whatever you're investing, whether it's time, whether it's energy, whether it's your ego, whatever it may be. Anything that has high return by definition has high risk. And so sometimes people will want that high return, but they don't understand that going after it means there are going to be times you're going to get burned, shall we say. But another thing, so to a certain extent, that's a rule. But one thing you can do to mitigate risk and to still get the high returns is that word that many of you may have heard before, but it's diversification, diversification, diversification. So it's okay. Maybe I want a good friendship. Maybe I want to invest some time for that. Okay. Well, don't invest all your time in one person that you think might be a good friend. Invest in, 100 different people and then see what happens. And then that final step of when it comes to your investments, always be testing and always be getting that feedback. Because even if you don't know what you're investing in up front, the more you practice investing, the more feedback you'll get about how to recognize a good investment over not as good of an investment, if that makes sense. So it's, like for instance, the stock market. You don't have to be an expert in the stock market to make money. As long as you're willing to invest in, 100 different stocks, you are probably going to make money over time. But the way you don't is when you just say, no, I need to put it all in the same stock. Then you're all in. Either I'm going all the way up or I'm going all the way down. But as long as you're willing to take lots of little bets over time, ultimately you're going to win. It's just a matter of making sure you make enough bets that, and also that you don't focus on the ones where you lost. Because by definition, to get the wins, you have to get the losses too. But the point is that they even out and that you learn from them.
Exactly. Good stuff. Glad you shared that, because it also, Squirrel brought over investing in coaches, investing in mentors, investing in finding tribes that lift you up. Yes, it takes some time. And yes, there may be times when things get a little lonely. I think we talked about that last week. If you're investing in making your life better, there will be times where the price can be a little, and I'm not just talking in cash flow. What is your projected outlook? What do you want to attain? What is your goal? What are you willing to invest? What is your return on investment? So, a lot of different ways we can spin this tale, but in the end, like I say, when you look at your life, how are you investing your time, your energy, and your resources? Lenore.
Question for you, and I'm so curious as to what people's thoughts are. If you're a professional athlete and you're wanting to get to a certain point, you would hire the best coach. why is it not the same for when people are, or why does our culture not think it's the same as saying like, I want to accomplish this in my life. Let me hire somebody to work with me. It really is puzzling to me, because if you have children, you're like, oh, well, we're going to hire a swim coach to get you so that you can be on the swim team, or you want to play baseball. Okay, so we now have a baseball coach. What is it that happened that it just doesn't seem like people aren't as engaged, and they're then thinking like, no, I don't need a coach, I need a therapist. Which, I mean, therapists have a place, but I'm really intrigued by this.
Michael.
I would say it's upbringing, especially American upbringing, where we've got to do things ourselves. We're taught, well, at least in our generation X per se,
Yeah.
you know, we're going to fix it ourselves. We're going to do this. You know, I'm going to find the way to do it. I had coaching in high school for wrestling. I had coaching for everything, so I learned early. I don't know everything, and got to reach out and get some help, you know?
Yeah.
I'm so glad you brought that angle up, both of you, because squirrels are running all over the place here now. My papa used to watch NASCAR, so I knew some of the drivers, and now I'm not sure, but the top NASCAR drivers, would you consider them to be probably pretty good drivers? And yet they have coaches and top football players. Well, if they're the best and they're making millions, why do they need a coach?
I think when Tiger Woods hit the ground, and he referenced to his coach, and everyone's like, "Holy smokes, man! He's the best golfer in the world, and he's got a coach."
Yes.
Wow.
And I got a comment or a question from one of the viewers that knows how to get a hold of me. It said, what is more important, investing to earn or investing to keep what you have?
Wouldn't that be a shift in perspective?
Yes. Are you playing to win, or are you playing to not lose?
And if you focus only on keeping what you have, then you're more standing still and not growing and going forward. Because if you're not growing, life is passing you by.
Yep. I've watched way too many people that were playing to not lose, which is a lot of fear-based. And they will get passed by people who are playing to win 9 times out of 10. And so at that point, yeah, you don't want to be dumb about it, but there's so much education, information, all the above, that you can keep working on it. Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs had said it so well. He goes, why are all of these colleges, why do they still have so many people in there? The vast majority of the stuff they teach is online. The information is out there. It's available. The problem is it's free. There's no skin in the game. People have to have something that most people, that was a blanket statement, but most people need to have skin in the game to be driven enough to want to go out and get things done. And in our industry and with some of the other industries I've been in, I hate to say it, but the $50 an hour client is much harder to work with than the $200 an hour client. I had to learn that the hard way. Woo! Woo! The $200 an hour clients are getting change because they're serious. They put the skin down. They want to get it done. Now, to keep it in perspective, there are some people that $50 an hour is a hefty chunk of change. And they will get the same perspective, the same change work, all the above. But for the people that can afford the 200 and are going, they're finding the bargain person, I feel sorry for the bargain person they found. And yes, Elijah's right. It's not the content, it's the delivery. So, lot of different ways we can spin it. Any other comments, ahas, epiphanies we want to add to this one before we move on? Bueller. Then let's move on to projectors. When I said that, how many age differences did we just discover? Some of us are brrr, some of us are boom. Some of us pictured ourselves sitting in the theater going. This one actually came out of a new client who is having what we're just going to say a bit of a challenge. And the challenge, I'll just say it's a new relationship client. And so they had just gotten into a relationship about 4 months before they contacted me for something else and found out that I have my triple P protocol for dating. And when I described it to them, they were like, well, I'm already in a relationship and yeah, too late. I'm like, well, then you can follow this protocol. Well, unfortunately, fortunately, we cleaned up the issue they came to me with and wanted cleaned up. But the relationship they were in seemed to be like a bunch of the other ones that they were in that fell apart and tore their heart and destroyed all of their stuff. And so they unfortunately just went through I'm going to call it the skip crash, where they were flying really nice and high and all of a sudden came down for the crash and it went boom, boom, boom. The first boom was the first big breakup, and then they, all right, I'm sorry, we'll get back together. No, we're not. One more time, because why not? Bam. And the projection of all of the beliefs that they were putting on the person that broke up with them really pointed out the pain that they were feeling and a lot of their beliefs. But when I reframed it and let them know that they had really only known this person about 9 months, and the first big crash was because they found out that this person had been hiding some massive secrets from them. And then a few more secrets came out, and then the other crash, and all the above. And yet they were sitting there projecting and mind reading all of the things that happened and why this person did it, and oh my gosh, and projecting on how much their life sucks, and they're never going to find somebody, and they're done, and all my dreams have crashed and burned and are beyond repair. Oh, woe is me. And so when I started pointing out all of the statements they had made and how many of them were such worst case scenario negative projections, especially attached to what we call the emotional refractory period, and how much they believed they were not worthy of love. And this person did it maliciously, on purpose, and all the above. When I finally got them settled down, I asked them, how many other things do you project and mind read and future, what we call future pace, where you're like, oh, this would have been so beautiful, and I made this perfect Hallmark movie, and everything was supposed to be fine, and then everything fell apart, and now my future is all doom and gloom and sewer pits, and it's all projection. And I'm curious how many of you have dealt with not only your own projections, but watching other people. Because a lot of times, yeah, Mark, forecasting. A lot of people, it's amazing how easy it is to be on the outside and hear the story and either get sucked into their reality, their script, their belief systems, or being able to be on the outside and hearing all of this and going, how do you know all this stuff? You didn't even know the person. Like, really? And yet you're trying to project all the reasons why they did this, and now they're probably already with somebody new, and they're completely don't even remember my name, and no. So anybody got anything they want to add to that? Ahas, epiphanies, comments, experiences? No? Got you all in trance, or you're all going, oh yeah, I've been there, done that, done it. I'm guilty. I've done it. And it's easy to do, especially if you don't realize you're doing it. It's kind of like that catch-22. The faster the wheel spins, the harder it is to stop it or jump off, or at least it feels that way. Another reason why you need to invest in the proper tribe, coaches. Mark.
I'm going to say that, again, these are all cognitive distortions. Casting, facts as feelings, catastrophizing, again, what you were saying, again, these are all cognitive distortion human beings like to engage in. It's human beings are terrible at predicting. Can't
Yeah.
predict the weather, can't predict the economy, but they keep going back and catastrophize or oh, it's the worst thing ever,
Ever.
never live again, I'll never love again,
Ever.
no. And but it's but is it human beings are terrible at prediction, so I just point that out to people.
Yep. Well, anybody else before we finish up with topic number 3? And being we're up to topic number 3, y'all better have your questions and your topics ready for hour number 2. I guess we'll move into number 3, feedback pains. And this one is kind of from a client and me personally. For those that don't know, I'm dealing with the joy of having 3 partially torn tendons in my rotator cuff. And I got a lower back that decided that it didn't want to be the only one who isn't playing in the game. And even though as agents of change and professional hypnotists and all the stuff that we get to do, there are times that you have to have those certain pains. Even like with the client that I was just talking about, what I pointed out to them is pay close attention to the pains so that you know what it is that you miss about the other person. Pay attention to what it is that causes you pain in a lot of different places. When you look at your life, what are some of the pains that are giving you feedback, areas to improve? If you're working out in the gym, there's going to be certain activities that when you do give you feedback pains that either means you're growing or your technique is off. And I think anybody here that's spent any time in a gym or working out has had, hopefully you've been lucky enough to have somebody that was watching your technique and went, try doing it this way. And you're like, well, I know how to lift a dumbbell. What are you trying to accomplish? And when you do it that way, what do you notice? So I'm curious real quick, what are some other forms of feedback pains that you guys thought of while I was describing that? Yep, Lenora.
A feedback pain that I noticed today was certain ones, when certain topics come up, I literally feel it in my body, and I'm now doing my best to be more aware of them. So it's not so much that somebody came at with me with anything, it's just a topic came up and I was like, oh, there it is.
Yes, the excellent one. Anybody else want to share any feedback pains that they thought of when we were discussing this? Another one that came to mind just now, when that certain song comes on, and you're like, oh, when I hear that song, it just, well, that's a feedback pain. That's what is it about, what's the anchor connected to that? What is it about that song that gets you? And is it worth holding on to? Is it worth investing into somebody to undo the anchor? Did it become an anchor because you were projecting something was supposed to work out, and then they threw their your class ring back at you and left with somebody else? Oh, no, it wasn't me. Okay, it was, but I'm over it now. Not. It can also be watching investments go up and down and up and down. It can also be that darn scale. Yeah, some people will have such a perception of what the scale means if they don't understand what their body is going through or what they can do to change it, and the feedback pain there. Another feedback pain, silence. And the perceived projection of if somebody's giving you the cold shoulder or the silent treatment, of what that means. Mark.
I had occasion to use this today, and again, there's certain incidents this couple, and they were looking at it as a sense of a source of continual, keep the feedback keeps coming negative. I said, wait a minute, stop. You need to need to understand why it's coming back. It's in your memory because it's never been validated, it's never been resolved. When it comes up, it's coming up for the purpose of being retuned, rebalanced, and you got to go into that memory, that conflict, and find the life lesson. That's how to break the feedback loop, is to stop feeling bad about it, stop recapitulating, stop living it, and break that loop, and and work together to find the life lessons. That's the reason why it was coming up. The reason why it's coming back is because life lesson in there, the mind doesn't want to let go of something essential for you to learn. So you need to, and I went through one incident with them, and I said, there's the life lesson. They up on their own, and I said, anytime stuff from the past keeps coming up for that purpose, discuss it and find the life lessons. Break that feedback. Negative emotion, pain.
Yes, and I'm so glad you brought that up. And again, that's where the more you start paying attention to what is giving you pain, even small little anchors like that or things of that nature, keep track of them. If it's a recurring issue, especially keep track of it. Reminded me of a story. I know I've told it on here before, but I'm not sure how long it's been. About young man goes out, visit Paw out in the country, and he and Paw are sitting out on the front porch and just having a little lemonade and rocking on the rocking chairs and chit-chatting. Over on the edge of the porch is the old dog, and the old dog has got this miserable low moan howl. And the young man was like, Papa, what's the matter with your dog? Papa says, well, I reckon he's probably sitting on that nail again. The young man goes, well, why didn't he move? Papa says, well, I reckon it doesn't hurt enough yet. We've all seen those people where they will sit there and bitch and moan, piss and cry and whine about da 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 da, but they won't do anything about it because the nail just doesn't hurt quite enough yet. And it's amazing how strong they will fight every solution you give them. Because the nail just isn't quite uncomfortable enough yet. And then the day when they sit on the nail the wrong way and it hurts, it's interesting how quickly they will resort to whatever solutions they can afford, and they'll invest into them in a way that they swore they never would before, because they've projected into the future how miserable their life will actually be if this nail gets any more uncomfortable. And that was all the feedback they needed. Any final ahas, epiphanies, comments on this? All wrapped up in a little bow. And we finished early. Look at that. 3 minutes early, got all three in. Woo! Which means we can actually move into hour number 2 for those of you that are watching live for the first time. This is where I do open mic, open platform. Anybody on the call can ask a question, bring up a topic, and all the people on the call get to answer first. So please feel free to join us. You do not even have to know how to spell NLP. We just like having people on here, and if you've been around Triple T long enough, you know how amazing some of the questions and answers can be. And that's why I do it this way, because I like to learn as well. So I know y'all, at least 5 of you have at least 4 questions already written down. And we're just going to see who can ask the question the quickest. Who's got it? Mark had his hand up.
Simple question. People can read into it whatever they want, but what's your best day?
What's your best day?
What was your best day? And you can't use the day your kids were born. That's too easy. What was your best day?
I only can pick one.
Only one. One's going to rise to the top.
Well,
You can do whatever you want with it. You want more, but some people have one
I could
day,
definitely have a
and every
best
other day is a
day.
tie. So
could definitely have a
What was your
best
best-
day. I know today's my favorite day. Says it on my mug.
My favorite day.
thanks, Pooh.
Okay, who's got something to throw at the question?
Are you thinking what's a part of your favorite day, or is it a conversation starter?
Just the thing popped up. The question popped up. And I usually get themes for the week, and that was one of the questions that came into my consciousness. Ask people. So, what was your best day?
Michael.
To answer that, I'm going to say in the past, I had several favorite days. I don't know if anyone's here old enough to remember Lifestyles Rich and Famous. So as a child, I looked at that. I'm like, man, how do I get to be a dancer with one of those people, so I can be, on that show. And lo and behold, I had a weird day. I used to teach country dance, two-step and swing back in the day. And I'm like, I need to go to my country bar. And it's 6 in the evening. I don't usually get there until 10. I'm wearing shorts and tennis shoes. And lo and behold, they're filming Lifestyles Rich and Famous. And so I end up doing a line dance with the whole group. And then they put the cameras away. And then Finola Hughes and the other person who was rich and famous were just hanging out. And they started dancing with people. So I asked her to dance. And they broke the cameras back out and filmed just her and I dancing. And I dipped her on national television. So it's like, whoa, that's
Awesome.
a favorite day. And so now looking with my current understanding of how things work, every day I wake up, I look for the favorite parts of my day.
I had, I think one of my best days that just popped up, squirrel. I took my wife to Billy Joel concert. She's the best. She's the biggest Billy Joel fan in the world. And I had heard that he gives away the front row. Oh, we were up in the nosebleed section. And I looked over, and sure enough, the guy with a big headphones and a boom mic. And I ran up underneath him. And I'm like, oh man, two tickets. My wife is the biggest Billy Joel fan. He goes, all right, 2 tickets. So I go back to her. She knows nothing of this. And I said, come on. She's like, where are we going? I said, come on. She said, I just got seated. We got our stuff. We got food. Come on. She says, where are we going? Finally, I just had to show her the tickets. Front row. She didn't stop crying until we got to the front row. Okay. And yeah, again, I don't know, MacGyvered front row ticket to the both ones. So yeah, that was one of my best.
Right on. Who else has something to share? Holly.
So I think I do know what my best day is. Before I do it, just kind of a quick observation that's been going through my mind as I pull up all of my contenders. Was an observation someone once made about it specifically talking about, what was the best sports game you ever watched. And the truth is, the one they were talking about, you don't necessarily know what it's going to be in the moment. And often it's the one that gave you the most stress, the most heartache, the one where you challenged yourself the most, whether you're an athlete or a fan. It's the one where, you were neck and neck and every single second counted. In the moment, you probably are like, oh, this could turn into the worst possible ever day. And then it ended as the best possible day. Those tend to be better than the, oh, yeah, I wasn't challenging myself at all. I was up, 100-0. And, anyway, so what is the best day in the moment versus what is the best day in hindsight isn't always the same thing. So that was one of the thoughts that went through my mind. But yeah, for me, it was definitely, I went on a Matthew Hussey retreat, and it was the day that I volunteered to be on stage with him for a demonstration. And I will say in the moment, once again, it was like freaking me out. And how is this even going to go? And there was even a part of me that's like, I hope he doesn't pick me. And but when I look at that, it basically set me up for the next who knows how many decades of my life, and led me on my journey. And so, yeah, love that day, love the topic. And like I said, I think the best days often are the days that we challenge ourselves and get the most growth, and we turn that, oh gosh, I can't believe I'm challenging myself. And then you actually come out on top, because you put yourself out there to have a great experience.
Everybody
Great.
knows who MacGyver is, and this was another question. He asked up with multiple. Sometimes your best day is a situation pops up and you manage to MacGyver your way into a really positive outcome. So that could be his best day. So what are some of your MacGyver? If you guys remember MacGyver.
Before I get into that, anybody else got any best day things they want to share? I got to say, when you brought this question up, I'm like, pick one, like for real. I've been super blessed. One that popped up when you said that though was after saying I wanted to be an international trainer for so many years, the day I got to get up in front of a class in Sydney, Australia. Still got it. That day. Got a lot of those, but that one is another one that. So, second question?
Well, the second question was, led from the first is, what are some of your cheat codes? What situations have you been able to guide your way out of? He always was faced with, we're doomed, and he was like, no, and he would have different things that his grandfather to get out of, he stopped a nuclear thing from melting down. He created a titanium torch out of a bicycle to open up a safe. Sometimes, like I said, if you have a day where everything seems to be going south and you manage to MacGyver your way into a really positive outcome, that could be somebody.
Okay, who's got something for that? I've got like 3,000 as well. So. Anybody?
I don't think I have a way that I've managed to get myself out other than linguistically. So it's not like I'm all that creative and I have, a pocket knife and a paperclip and a, juju mint and I can handle a bomb. Definitely not so much. I did find a very helpful way to talk to the, what was it? The conductor of the train. I was over in Europe and we went to the ticket booth and they go, okay, well, and we thought we could just buy tickets on a Saturday. And we go to the ticket booth and they're like, okay, well, we can't give you tickets till Monday. Excuse me, come again? Because it was a pit stop. And so they said the best thing that you can do is go talk to the train master. So after some very broken Italian and translating it into what was understandable, I was able to make my way onto the food cart. Oh my God.
Awesome. That's one of the great things about travel. It just you find out how resourceful you can be sometimes. I know. Been there, done that. Holly.
This may sound like it's the opposite of it, but it kind of is the first thing that came to my mind when you asked the question. So I had 2 days that were back to back. I was working with two different people, doing hypnosis sessions. And I had gotten to the place where it's kind of like, I've got to know all the answers. I've got to come up with the perfect, metaphors, the perfect analogies, it's all about, I got to get in there and do the best that I can do. And I had back to back two clients that went in such unpredictable directions. I was not able to keep up with them. I was not, and then all of a sudden it's just this thought of, well, duh, of course it's not about me. Of course it's not about me coming up with the answers or the analogies. So one person, we were doing a magic frame. And 2 seconds in, her guardian angel came in, took the picture that she was, writing on or whatever, and took a sword and cut it into a million pieces. And then they looked at the tapestry and it had answers for them. And, I'm just like, I mean, it was so much cooler than anything else I ever could possibly have gotten into. And so, at some point, I'm just like, why am I trying to control this? It's better than anything I could ever, like take that step back, listen, hold the space, and let them just go for it because they are. And then, I thought it was a one-off. And then the next day, I had somebody else doing something similar that I think it was once again we were starting with magic frame for those who know that technique. And the next thing I know, he was going through like this Japanese garden of shrubs, and we were like changing the size of the shrubs to get through it. And he's fluent in several different languages. And so like I couldn't even do echo talk at points because he was using words I'd never heard of before in my entire life. But it was just kind of that like, so the trick was I got to step back and let them lead. I've got to step back and let them find their answers and recognize this is about them. This is not about me. So like I said, it may sound like it's kind of the opposite, but the trick to get through it was actually to just like stop trying to get through it. Stop trying to come up with the brilliant answer because the answer was already there. Why was I trying to force it?
Amen. Been there, done that many, many times. Anybody else got something they want to share before I try to cut mine down to under 300? No? Well, as somebody who grew up and started working with carpenters when I was like 8 and working in a mechanic shop when I was 11 in a farm town of 185 people. Yeah, I learned to MacGyver a whole lot of stuff. But if you're up for a funny story, I think the statute of limitations is probably passed now. I believe I was 17 or 18 and had my hot rod car and got totally busted going a little faster than I was supposed to, maybe. And yeah, the cop did a whoo, came right behind me, and before he could even turn on the lights, I pulled over to the side of the road, and as he was coming up behind me, I was shut it off, got out of the car before he could get out of his car, and I popped the hood, and I'm like, and taking off the air cleaner, and he comes walking up, he goes, "What's going on?" I said, "Can I have your gun?" He's like, "What?" Oh, no. I went, "This damn carburetor, it sticks every now and then, and I'm so tired, I just want to shoot it. Just, can I use your gun?" He was like, "You have a good day." Turned around, got in his car, turned around, takes off, and I'm like, "I am so sorry to my car. I'm sorry." Good girl. "You're fine." Put the air cleaner back on. Went home.
Love it.
Yeah. Yeah, MacGyvered my way out of that one.
That's more a Jedi mind trick on that one.
Yeah. So, there's a MacGyver story for you. Okay. Any other input, or are we ready to
Excellent
pull up?
question.
Yes. Okay, so who's got another question? I know I told you guys to have some ready.
I love that question. Those are really, really good, Mark. A++. I have questions.
Good. Let's go.
I'm looking to see if this is the one that I wanted to ask.
See, I told you had more than one.
Of course I have more than one. Are you kidding? You should see my phone. Got like 882 no things. Okay. The happiest person you know.
Okay,
Well, that is
peeps.
for you.
How you want to answer that?
I am.
Aw. I love that. That's awesome.
Yes. Got the ups and downs, but you still gotta just make the best of every day. We're not promised tomorrow, and I always think of Dead Poets Society. Carpe diem, seize the day,
Seize the day.
suck the marrow out of life.
Amazing movie. I miss Robin
So-
Williams.
Miss
Yep.
Robin Williams.
Mm-hmm. So good.
And what an example to show you how you can be on the outside looking like the funniest, happiest person and inside be so sad and tortured. So any of you out there, please, 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 please reach out. Simon Sinek had a great little talk about how most people, when they're in that dark space, the ones that were lucky enough to come out and admit to it said that they just needed someone to talk to for about 8 minutes. And so he came up with a code because he had a friend who was going through that stuff. And he said, if you're ever in a position like that, simply send me a text. Do you have 8 minutes? There will be no judgment, no about anything that we can think to talk about for at least 8 minutes. But please don't rob me of the ability to help you for 8 frickin' minutes. So, anybody out there? Anybody, text me, email me, whatever it takes. Just say, do you have 8 minutes? I got 30 minutes free consult. If you can't find anybody that you're willing to contact for 8 minutes, contact me. I got 30. In fact, you can have 38. I wish I would have known Robin. I would have told him I'd have given him my direct number and I had to talk to him for 8 minutes, as many times as it would have taken. Mark.
I understand. What I heard was you could be the happiest person. What would that be like? And I think I follow that formula every day. I talk about, life's marbles, 50 are black, 50 are white. Every day you get to reach in without looking and grab 10. And you're going to be happy. You're going to focus on the white one. Most people choose black ones. And I wake up in the morning. Hey, that's one white marble. I have a woman that loves me and grandchildren that adore me. Oh, there's a couple more. When you go looking for the white marbles, they're always there. You go looking for the black marbles, well, they're always there too. Again, if I'm going to be, that's what it feels like being me every day, because those black marbles, I don't pay attention to them. Yeah, they'll get taken care of, whatever. Focus on the white marbles. And every day, like I said, look for them. They're always, I just need one. I'm going to have a fabulous day. Somebody who's looking at the black marbles might have a great day with 9 great things that happened to him and one less than positive. And you ask him at the end of the day, how was your day? He'd be like, yeah, I guess today didn't suck too bad. Because he's focused on the black marble. Always, so that if that's how I that's how I do what I do, is always looking at the positive. I'm always looking for that next white marble to drop. I guess I hope that.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad you shared that because it reminded me. I want to share a quote that I've been teaching my clients, and I know you guys have probably heard it, but I don't know who's out there listening. And I'll say it twice, and because this is going to be recorded, you can go back and play it back. But it goes like this: in the quantum of possibilities, best case scenario has just as much probability as worst case scenario. The one you find the most is the one you give the most power to and look for. So I'll say it again. In the quantum of possibilities, best case scenario has just as much probability as worst case scenario does. The one you'll find the most is the one you feed the most energy, and it's just like you were saying, Mark, and another one is if somebody tells you to drive down the road for 3 hours and count how many red cars you see. And when you get back, you report that you saw 87 red cars, and they go, good. How many blue cars did you see? What? Best case scenario versus worst case scenario. The blue cars were there as well. You just didn't see them because you weren't looking for them. Lenora. Mike is off.
Bananas. I'm so glad that you mentioned that.
Bananas.
I just had I saw something on Instagram of which take it with a grain of salt. So had to obviously pull it up on Google to take it with, slightly less of a grain of salt. A Cornell University study found that 85% of what people worry about never happens. The study tracked participants over time, asking them about their fear. True. The study also found that of the 15% of concerns that did happen, 79% of people found that the challenge was easier to handle than expected, or that they learned a valuable lesson from it. Now, just thinking that, when I read that, I was like, oh, wow. So even when I'm thinking, well, what if it doesn't happen? 85% is in my favor. So that's kind of cool. So, why worry so much?
Yes, exactly. Michael.
So 2 things. First of all, I'm reminded of the old Indian proverb, where the medicine man's talking to the kid and he says, you have 2 wolves. One is dark, one is light, one is good, one is evil. And they're in a battle to the death. And the little kid says, well, which one's going to win? Whichever one you feed.
Yes.
And then with Mark, you find what you look for. And in my industry, it's really easy to look for the reason why not. It's more difficult to find the reasons why they should. And so you always have to always be testing, always be testing.
Yep. Holly.
Okay, this is definitely a growth question for me. Throw that out there first. Obviously, I needed to know the answer. A few things came to me when you asked that question. First, the first thing that popped into my head is, well, a lot of it depends on how do you even define happy. And then I just started thinking, how do I define happy? And when I define something, it's not the only thing I do, but step 1 is I like to look up the etymology of the word. So I looked up the etymology of happy. And the root of happy, it's like happenstance or Now, when I think of luck, especially for something like happy, I think it's like a more mature version of luck. So I know Elijah's mentioned it before, but if you want a really good discussion of this, check out Darren Brown's The Secret of Luck. That makes it very clear luck isn't just, it's not some external passive thing that happens to you. When you believe you're lucky, usually you're actually out in the world. You're noticing opportunities. You're taking advantage of opportunities. When you're nice to people, it creates more opportunities, creates good energy. So, it's not necessarily luck of, oh, well, I can't be happy because, I have no control over my life. It's just whatever happens to me. That's not what I mean by luck specifically. Luck is, creating a lucky life because you're living in harmony with luck. But then a couple other things that kind of came to mind. Viktor Frankl just came to my mind a lot. So a couple of quotes from him. One of them says, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way." And just to put that in context, if anyone doesn't know, you probably already do, but Viktor Frankl, was in a concentration camp during the Holocaust. And he was also a psychologist, and so he would work with, people who were in the camps as prisoners that were dealing with, the most extreme of experiences. But then another one of his quotes, or I don't know if this comes from him or it was but it is the very pursuit of happiness that thwarts happiness. And it's also there's this idea of it's called obliquity, where sometimes, so it's, I think what Lenore said, if you commit to be happy, there's a difference between being happy versus pursuing being happy. So I'm going to allow myself to be happy rather than I have all of these goals and I'll be happy when. I'll be happy when. And this kind of, so there's I've been watching a lot of videos on the concept of obliquity. There's a TED Talk on obliquity that talks about sometimes when we're aiming too hard at a goal, it's, you reach the goal through sideways things. And so, going back to Viktor Frankl, the number one way, and once again, it depends on how you define happiness. Some people say happiness is, they're confusing it with indulging, things. So like I'm going to overindulge in food. I'm going to overindulge in my favorite movies. I'm going to overindulge in comfort. And I don't think that's true happiness that has substance. But Viktor Frankl says the best thing to pursue to get that happiness that's of substance is to pursue meaning. When you can find meaning in your life, whatever you may be going through, that meaning can give you happiness. For him, he's in a concentration camp, but he can give it meaning because he can say, I'm a psychologist. I can take all of everything that I'm learning right now and use it to become a much better psychologist. I found some meaning. Now I'm able to find happiness in this place that could be a place of ultimate despair. So anyway, those are some things popping through my head. And like I said, this is I need to hear this more than the question.
That was, thank you for sharing that. Big time. Who else has something to share? Lenore.
I was toying with something, and the word being and the word becoming. And if we're in a constant state of being, who are we being? And how is that being responding? Did you follow that? I noticed that different parts were responding to different pieces of conversation. And I'm like, wait, who am I being? Which mask am I wearing right now? Who's responding? And if the universe is, what do they say? Everything is it happening first or responding? It's happening first and we're responding to it. So when we pay attention to who we are being in that moment and still standing guard at the doorway of our mind on who we are being in that moment, we are in a constant state of becoming and still in a constant state of responding. I just thought that was a very interesting perspective. Which being is responding?
So really
Michael.
quick, to respond to that, Lenora, I think one of the reasons we're all here is because we all look to respond. The majority of people that we see and interact with are more in a reaction mode, and they react based on their environment instead of responding to their environment.
Love that. Thank you.
You're amazing.
Great
So
answer.
are you.
Mark.
Jay's mentioned it a couple of times tonight that we are agents of change. We're also agents of transition to help other people become. They have potential.
Wow. Another great answer. Holly.
Love this question. The first thing that popped into my head is talking about the logical level of beliefs. And so whenever I hear the phrase to be, the first thing that I go to is at one point I was studying languages, and I only got so far because they talk about if you can learn the 200 most commonly used words in a language, you could get by with certain conversations. If you can learn the 1,000 most common, so it's all about learning the words that are most common. And so for a lot of the languages I wanted to learn, I started going to internet sites that they're just basically analyzing massive amounts of data to tell you what are the most commonly used words in most languages. And in several languages, the most commonly used word are forms of the word to be. And if you think about it, you can conjugate that I am, you are, we are, so there's different conjugations of this word, but at the end, they all are basically the same word. And since I am is one of the conjugations of that, you get into logical levels of belief. One of the highest levels of belief are your I am statements. And there's definitely a creation aspect to this of, and when we talk about responding or creating, if it's an I am statement, if I am being something, I am actively creating. Whereas, that's very different than responding to what somebody else is creating. And I think at any given point, we've got a negotiated reality of what I created, what the other person created. Do we come to a middle place? Is one of us so much stronger in our creation that it overrides the other person's creation? Is something true for me that isn't true for them? And is something true for them that isn't true for me? Like the difference between us creating our reality versus letting other people using their I am statements create our reality for us, where do we allow that to happen? But I think there's something even stronger than this too, because now I don't know how accurate this is, but I was trying to figure out, what does Om mean for those of you who've done a lot of, meditation. And there's kind of an idea of breath associated with it. But also I read somewhere, and like I said, I can't swear that it's true because I don't speak the Sanskrit or anything like that. But they said that one of the definitions, and like I said, it said one of the definitions of Om is to be. It's that concept of, to be, I am kind of situation. Also, for those who are familiar with the Tetragrammaton or whatever, the Yod He Vav He, whatever, one of the definitions of that is to be, or I am. And it's also associated with breath. So, this kind of, I don't know completely what the connection is between creation and being and breath. There's clearly some kind of connection there, though, that seems to transcend it. It's at the root of a lot of really major belief systems, whether people realize it or not. There's something extremely powerful there. And like I said, I know it has something to do with breath, something to do with being, and also definitely it seems to be the root of creation. And also, because it's the root of creation, it also makes it the root of manifestation. So I could be completely off on that, but that's kind of my my sense as I look into it.
You're right
Awesome.
on target with that. One of the things I'd learned about just recently, or maybe a year ago, when you talk about Abraham, or actually Moses, when he saw the burning bush, and that's when supposedly, or another time when God revealed himself. And the name Yahweh also means I am, and the way you say Yahweh in Hebrew is a breath. So it's like Yah, and then wait, no, or vice versa. It's you breathe in part and then you exhale the other part. So it's like wait, something like that. So anyway,
Cool stuff. See, this is why I love second hour as well, because I get to learn stuff. Holly.
So quick thought that also added to me too is also notice with breathing, our state control all comes down to breathing and posture. So state control, I think, also what state I'm in is also what I am being right now. And that also determines what I am creating. So, but yeah, anyway. And yes, thank you for sharing that, by the way, Michael. That was great.
Very cool. Anybody else got anything to add to that?
Hey, it's Phil.
Hey, Phil.
I got a silly one for you.
Okay.
You realize it takes 12 muscles to be happy, and it takes 132 muscles to frown.
Yeah.
I'd prefer to be lazy.
Writing that down.
Right, you can Google it.
Yeah, and so many people believe that it's harder to be happy. Aren't.
Kids are always happy. They're always smiling. So, you point that out to an adult. Well, they don't have, mortgages and, and job stress. So, but are they smiling and that induces a state of happiness? Or does it come from within and cause them to smile? They smile. Children smile 3 times more than adults.
Yep.
Kids always seem to be happy. There is true state control.
They smile more. They laugh way more. They also ask way more questions. Right, Mom? God bless my mom. How many questions did I ask growing up? Everywhere, anything, anyone. I just wanted to learn. Very inquisitive. And here we are. Okay. We've got 21 minis left. And I know you guys have more questions. You heard Lenora said she had 820? But she's off camera, so who's got another question? Oh, there she is.
I do have questions.
Good.
882, I think I said. Mistakes. Do you like mistakes? Do you like the word mistakes? Do you like the word failure? And if so, why?
Who's got an answer?
I'll go with that.
Okay.
So to answer first, you're asking mistakes. Do you like the word mistakes? And I'm not sure if I like the word mistakes, but I know that you don't always get what you want, and you keep learning and growing from it. So those could be considered mistakes. I know I've made wrong turns, but you always try to find a way to make it a right turn. And when we bring up failure, that's a word I try to avoid as well, because you only fail when you quit. You know, as long as you're still going, you're not failing, in my opinion.
Yep. Totally agree. Mark.
I have a philosophy that, there are no mistakes. There are only benchmarks. And, human beings fail a lot, but if failure inspires you to go back and, try harder, um, everybody fails. You have to give yourself permission to fail, and then, improve your strategy, in the game of life, and, another go at it. So, but yeah, I don't, those words have very little import in my ethos, because there is no failure. There are only benchmarks, or there are no mistakes. Yeah. And no mistakes. And then failure is just, reset, improve your strategy, go back and, succeed.
Absolutely. I've heard a lot of times there are no mistakes, there's only feedback. Holly.
Well, I will say, when it comes to the word failure, for me, and it depends on how you define these words, of course, but so failure, like TJ just said, there is no failure, there's only feedback. That's definitely something that comes through my mind. Part of the reason I like that, and I don't like the word failure so much, is because to me, there's two things. One, it feels like it's permanent. And two, it feels like there's a moral judgment associated with it too. Like you could have succeeded. Failure can, I don't know, like fail, but that's just the way I define the terms, of course, for myself. So I don't think any kind of setback is permanent. You could reframe it into something that, what did I learn? How can I make it better? So that's how I kind of feel about the word failure. I think I might have a somewhat unique feeling with the word mistake, because I kind of always feel with it like mistake. I kind of look at it and say, oh, I just, there's not a moral failing with me. I'm just human. And, because I'm a human, I'm going to mistake the things around me. And I'm going to respond in a way that may not have been the right way, but I can still learn from it, and I can forgive myself because, they say that, I think it's like there's 500, I remember the numbers are 550, but I can't remember what the units are. But how, megabytes per second or something of data coming at us. So we've got like 500, I'm going to make the numbers up, but say we've got 500 megabytes of data coming at us every second, and we're only able to process 50 of them. So of course I'm going to mistake some of the things around me because I'm missing 450 megabytes worth of data. And even once I get the data, maybe I misprocess it once it goes in. So for me, the word mistake is kind of a gentler word of saying, I did the best I could with the resources I had. And heck, even afterwards, I don't necessarily know that I'm processing what happened correctly. But it's the human condition to make mistakes. And they're going to happen. And so, it's not that I am morally deficient because I made a mistake. I just did the best I could with the knowledge that I had and the resources that I had. And it's okay that I didn't have all resources. It's okay that I'm not omniscient. But if somebody's taken that term to mean that, so anyway, I think at these terms, it's not necessarily the term that you use, it's the meaning you give the term.
There.
And the question is, are you taking these terms as, is there a moral failing? And is it something I can learn from, or is it something that I'm taking as a permanent condition that I can't recover from? Are kind of the bottom lines for me.
Yep. Elijah.
So, morning. So when people judge themselves or someone else as having made a mistake, there is a boundary there, a temporal boundary of time. Between this moment and this moment, the mistake was made. Up until that moment, before, there was no mistake. And afterwards, once we'd gotten past it and we'd moved on, there was no more mistake. But in that moment, that was the mistake. And so what would happen if you allow yourself permission to expand that boundary to last over a longer, wider period of time? Would you still judge it as a mistake? So, for example, I did something once that led to an argument, that led to me no longer being friends with someone, and in that moment, I could say that the thing that I said was a mistake. But if I consider the 2 years leading up to that moment and the 2 years that followed that moment, I would say that my life was actually not bad before and way, way much better afterwards. So was getting rid of that person out of my life actually a mistake? It's only by judging that one brief moment that I thought it was a mistake.
Yep.
If I expand the boundary and judge it over a greater, wider span of time, is it still a mistake? And how can you use those types of perceptual shifts to change the way you feel about something that was maybe once set in stone, but actually you could be much more flexible about it, and how you make meaning of it than perhaps you thought?
I like it. Along those lines, Elijah, you got to thank God for unanswered prayers, because you look at it, it was a mistake but then you look at it like, actually, if that person is going to take it to such an extreme that they're going to now unfriend me for a comment that I thought was from my heart or not meaning to hurt, do I really need that person in my life?
It's great, isn't it, when you realize you dodged a bullet?
Absolutely. And then you can tie it to TJ's little story that he talked about when he was talking about MacGyver. If he didn't get caught by the cop, he wouldn't have had to think on his feet to come up with a great story where the cop's like, dude, that was a smart story. I'm just going to let this kid go.
Right.
So was it a mistake? I don't think so.
And Fran's got her hand up.
Having come in on the tail end of that conversation,
Oh.
mistakes, if you've got battle scars from your mistakes, you've been living juicy. You've been grasping life and living it to the full. If you don't have battle scars, your life's not exciting enough. Be happy for the mistakes. Be happy for the battle scars. Be happy for the hurts. If you hurt, you've been living, and you've only got one chance at this life. So grasp it, live it, get hurt, get bumped, make mistakes, enjoy.
Awesome. 100%. And it goes right along with my squirrels delivered two things of, one, nothing means anything until you give it a label. You can call it a lesson, you can call it an adventure, you can call it a mistake, you can call it so many different things. Figure out what serves you. Be with you in just a second, Michael. And the second one, because nothing means anything till you give it a label. Yeah, I'm very familiar with mistakes and Mr. Stakes and high stakes and low stakes, and they're all stakes. And I like my steaks medium rare. So you got to also address life with a little bit of, have a little humor and brush some stuff off. Because I've had people, yesterday was a terrible day, a worst day. And I'm like, the whole day? Yeah. Well, what happened? First thing in the morning, I spilled milk all over myself. And? Yeah, it made for the worst day ever. I said, oh, so you had a 30-second event that was bad in your mind, and then you milked it for the rest of the day. Was the whole day bad? Or did you take that 30-second event and milk it for all it was worth? So that you could feel bad and relish in all the energy of feeling bad. When you could have just simply went, oops, guess I won't do that again, and got on with your day. You're welcome, Elijah. Michael, you had your hand up.
All right, check us out. Who likes Selma Hayek?
Who?
Selma Hayek.
Oh, yes.
Amazing. She was actually on a talk show a long time ago. And they're like, well, how are you always so happy? And what do you do when somebody starts yelling at you or cussing at you or whatever? And she says, I just imagine them saying something in a language that I can't understand. So along the terms of you labeling, well, if I don't understand the label or I can't hear your label, it's like, all right, do-do-do-do-do, bounces off, duck oil, let it all wash off.
What a concept, huh? Yeah, I've been in a number of countries where I didn't speak the language. And yeah, I didn't know if they were what they were saying about me, so I just projected that they were saying good stuff and everybody loved me and the energy went out. And Fran.
I was thinking that we live in the country where we speak the same language and half the time we don't know what each other really mean anyway.
Yep. There's if you guys have ever seen the TV show Clarkson's Farm with Jeremy Clarkson, if not, there's very few TV shows that I watch, but that one kind of sucked me in, and he has a helper. What's his name? He's so crazy and stuff, that a lovable guy. But when he talks, even the subtitles are like, we got nothing. And even Jeremy's like, I have no idea what he just said. And yes, they both grew up in England.
And I mean, the meaning of what we say, what our intention is, and what actually the other person receives there's such a big gap. Language is so clumsy.
Yep. And one of our viewers, David, said, more often than you think, mistakes turn out to be an advantage.
Okay.
And I've got a quick story about that with my wife, who makes candies from scratch. And we had just started hanging out. We weren't even, I don't know if we were even officially dating yet. And she was making caramels, homemade caramel. And we're chit-chatting, all of a sudden she's like, rah, 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 rah. And I'm like, what? She goes, I messed it up. I got to start all over again. And she was about to start scraping all of the ingredients into the trash. And I was like, whoa, wait. How long have you been making candy? Well, quite a while. I said, you'll be able to figure out how to rescue this. It's not destroyed yet. Well, I've always said the difference between baking and cooking. Baking is science, cooking is art. And she was so frazzled because she had messed up the science of making caramels. But she was nice and kind and said, well, fine, but I'm going to make another batch the right way so that they taste good. All right. So she did both batches, and they were sea salt caramels. And when she got done, you could distinctly tell the difference between the two because the mistake ones were darker. Cut them up, she wraps them all up, she's got all the wrappers and everything, and took a bunch of them to work. Guess which ones were renowned as the best? The mistake ones. Well, sometimes mistakes, and I know that the history books are completely full of how many mistakes turned out to be the ahas, the epiphanies, the holy cows that gave us amazing stuff. So 3 minis left. Who's got anything they want to add before we got to say goodnight? Fran.
When do you know you've actually made a mistake? At what point was what you were doing, you thought it was fine and you realized it was a mistake? What was that point? And what did you learn from that point? What was different before? What was different after? And what was advantageous from learning that, oh, maybe this isn't what the best way forward is?
And I'll throw on top of that, how many people made a mistake without realizing it until somebody else informed them that, yeah, that was not right, that was a mistake. Yeah, penicillin, one of the world's most important mistakes. Yeah, there's so many of them. So be careful with that label. I'll toss this right on top of that. Please remember, there are always at least 3 solutions to every event, situation, or problem that may occur. Have you tried at least 3 ways of getting around what you're calling a mistake? Now, there are certain mistakes that, I mean, like if you decided to play basketball inside the house and you broke the chandelier, was that a mistake? Kind of, yeah. Or was that just, duh? And I know a few people out there that are against violence just went, it's okay. I've had a few of those. I can survive. But that's another thing to ponder for the next 7 days. What's the difference between making a mistake and just doing something stupid? Well, it's no mistake that we're here.
Would it be perspective?
What?
Would it be perspective?
Yes, it is perspective. The kid thought it was a mistake. The parents probably didn't use that label. In fact, the parents probably used a few labels that the kid is not allowed to use for another 12, 15 years. That being said, the Tiki-Talk just told me that we've reached the end of the 2 hours. So once again, I get to, with all my heart and all my being, thank you all for being here, for sharing your very precious commodity of time. I will always be humbled for any time that you guys are willing to take out of your life, out of your day, and share it here on this platform. So thank you. Please take care of yourself. Go out and make the world a much better place like you always do. Keep those beautiful smiles on your faces. And again, if you ever need 8 minutes, let me know. I'm here. And for those of you out in YouTube land, hey, Mom, love you. And if you made it this far on the recording, thank you so much. I appreciate you as well. Please do all the YouTube stuff. Click the subscribe, ring the bell, leave comments, share this with other people. Not for my glory, please, but there's so much good stuff that you guys have brought up and replies and stuff that somebody just might not, you never know what they need to hear. So until next week, love y'all. Bye.
Adios, y'all.
Adios.
At all.